Hey there and welcome back to NBA 2K18's My League Mode. My name is Pete and today we complete another part of the first season with our expansion team. And after our first game last episode, I'd say let's jump right into the action for game number 2. Right, very interesting. The Lakers throw a trade offer over to us, and Ivica Zubac is an interesting guy, so I'll have to think about that for a moment. Okay, in the end I decided to decline the trade, not necessarily because I'm not interested, but because I don't really see a reason why the Lakers would give Zubac away. Especially not for Mo Harkless on a 3-year $30 million deal, because that would definitely have an impact on the Lakers' ability to sign free agents going forward. So we'll have to politely decline and can now continue with game number 2. We're still at home, this time against the 76ers, and I have to say the game definitely went better than last time. By the way, I have turned the difficulty up to Superstar, because I honestly didn't really feel a lot of difference between All-Star and Superstar. So like I said, we started out fairly well. Mo Harkless scored our first 5 points, Abrines added 5 including a 3, and then near the end of the quarter Bryce Johnson came in and scored 7 points in 2.5 minutes. Those 3 guys were also one reason we stayed ahead in the second quarter. However, another very big factor was Deyonte Davis. He had 4 blocks in the first half, played solid defense against Joel Embiid and kept him to only 8 points and 3 rebounds. And so we went into the halftime break with a nice 10-point lead, outscoring and also out-rebounding our opponents. Juan Hernangomez, by the way, had 9 of his 11 rebounds in the first half alone, and so while turnovers were admittedly still a problem, we had things under control. The third quarter didn't change much about that. Now Mo Harkless got going. I decided to feed him a bit more this game after not getting too many shots up last time, and he seemed thankful for that, scoring 10 points in the third quarter alone as we continued to build up the lead. Then, with 8 minutes to go in the third, the Sixers with an injury to Ben Simmons, and at this point I have to say I was convinced we had the game in the bag. However, the Sixers now put the pedal to the metal. Markelle Fultz scored 17 points in the second half, once again showcasing that Tyler Ulis is definitely a liability on defense, as Fultz was definitely having an easy time scoring against him. The backbreakers then, however, were midway through the fourth quarter an injury to Alex Abrines. After Josh Richardson went down in the first game, Abrines now did so in the second one, and things had already begun going downhill at that point. The Sixers' Robert Covington, then the one to put the nail in the coffin, 17 points in the fourth quarter alone, including elite defense on Mo Harkless, who committed 4 turnovers in this fourth quarter. And so the end result, once again close but still a loss, despite a near double-double from Mo Harkless, but also 9 turnovers that eventually played a big part in costing us the game. Bryce Johnson then with a phenomenal performance, 22 points, 12 rebounds in just 21 minutes of action. He was definitely the guy who kept the second unit in the game. Tyler Ulis once again a bit disappointing, only 3 points, 6 assists but also 3 turnovers, and the shooting percentages also leave a lot to be desired. Overall, still a solid game, the rebounding definitely improved, but the one thing we have to take care of are turnovers, although that is likely to be expected from a squad as young as this one. After the game then, the shocker, Alex Abrines out 2 to 4 months with a broken right ankle, probably one of our best players at this point, and losing him to an injury this long definitely sucks, especially with Josh Richardson also still out. So before we head into the next game, we have to remove Abrines from the rotation as well, and so the starting spot at the shooting guard will have to go to Yogi Ferrell. Shooting guard is only his secondary position, but he's still a bit better than Rashad Vaughn, who will continue to be the backup. Sliding into the rotation with 20 minutes is Kay Felder, who will now take Ferrell's spot as the backup point guard behind Tyler Ulis. By the way, the injury to Ben Simmons turned out to be a severe ankle sprain, leaving him sidelined for 6 to 8 weeks. Next game then against the Lakers in LA, and with the current injury situation I decided to simulate that. Even though we can see here that Josh Richardson has been upgraded to day-to-day, I still left him out of this one just to be safe. And so things ended up pretty much as expected. We lost the game, and pretty clearly so, with a 22-point deficit. Performance-wise, nobody really stood out. Ferrell with 15 points and 3 of 6 from deep. Diallo with 12 points and 5 boards in 18 minutes. Davis once again showing that he's always a candidate for a double-double. And Juan Hernangomez with 13 rebounds, probably the last guy worth mentioning here. For the Lakers, 5 guys scored in double figures and Brook Lopez absolutely manhandled us. 27 points, 8 boards and 6 blocks, and he also only missed 2 shots from the field, and he also made all 3 of his 3-pointers. So next game then against the Jazz, and with Richardson and Abrines both still injured, I decided to simulate that one as well, and things went about as well as one might expect. Even without Gordon Hayward, the Jazz still good enough to crush us by 24 points. Pharrell once again leading the team in scoring with 15 points, shooting a much better percentage from the field now as well. With Mo Harkless, the turnovers once again a problem, but 14 points and 4 rebounds, getting closer to the numbers I'd like to see him put up every night. Diallo once again with 12 points, 5 rebounds, and also pretty good defensively, and all of that also once again in just 18 minutes. Also shooting 6 of 8 from the free throw line, not too bad for a big man. If it wasn't for the fact that he's only 6'9" at the center position, he would probably be due for a minutes upgrade now. Deontay Davis once again a fringe double-double candidate, but his 5 turnovers definitely also played a role in the loss. For the Jazz, one of the guys responsible for their victory definitely Rodney Hood with 27 points, also shooting 7 of 8 from deep, accompanied by Jonas Jerebko, who was close to a double-double, and Derek Favors, who achieved one, and also by Rudy Gobert, who only scored 4 points but also grabbed 10 rebounds. So in the end, the Jazz did out-rebound us quite comfortably, and especially their 19 offensive rebounds were one reason for the defeat today. Our first back-to-back is coming up against the Trail Blazers, and I wanted to simulate that one as well, but before I could do so, some positive news: Josh Richardson back from the injury. So I adjusted the rotations accordingly, Josh Richardson back in the starting lineup, Rashad Vaughn still the guy to back him up, and Yogi Ferrell switching back to point guard off the bench. Thanks to his good performances in the last 2 games, I gave Ferrell a slight minutes increase, and that came at the cost of minutes for Tyler Ulis, who has so far been pretty disappointing. Kay Felder didn't really do much in the 2 games he played, and so he's back out of the rotation now. Now with Richardson back, I still decided to simulate the next game against Portland, but we were actually keeping up in the first half, and Tyler Ulis was also having a half-decent game, so I decided to jump in for the second half, and as you can see, we promptly got obliterated. Still, Ulis finished as the top scorer with 16 points and 4 assists, also pretty effective from the field. I would definitely like to see a bit more where that was coming from. Back from his injury, Richardson also had a good game with 12 points, also getting it done on the defensive end with 2 nice blocks. Davis Bertans had his first game scoring in double digits, although the majority of his points came from the free throw line. The player that I liked best in the second half that I played was Deontay Davis, who finally got himself that double-double with 10 points and 12 rebounds, a lot of those coming in the fourth quarter where he was arguably our best player. So, 5 straight losses, but a day off before facing the Cavaliers, and we did give the Cavs a run for their money. Now, ultimately we lost again, and against the Cavaliers that is the expected outcome, but it was a close game. The main reason we lost, 32 points by this guy right here, Isaiah Thomas, while LeBron James was 1 assist shy of a triple-double. On our side, very even scoring performances, 7 players in double digits, led by Hernangomez's 16 points, while Richardson, Harkless and Vaughn all added 15 each. Ulis once again a solid game, only missed 1 shot from the field for 13 points and 6 assists, while Deontay Davis had a beautiful dunk over Tristan Thompson and also once again scored in double digits. At this point, I think we've also nailed a few of the key problems this team has. Number 1 is definitely defense against opposing point guards, where Tyler Ulis is simply not getting the job done at the moment. Even the equally small-sized Isaiah Thomas dropped 32 on him, and the point guard is currently one of the strongest positions in the league. Another thing is rebounding, although we're getting better at that, and maybe we'll have to sit a guy like Kuzma or Bertans for one of the next games, and bring our 7'1" big man Zhu Qi into the rotation instead. The third reason might be that we don't really have anyone on the roster who can consistently score 20 or more points, and while Alex Abrines looked promising in that regard, he will be out for the next 2 months at least. Now there is one more thing I'd like to talk about today, and that is the current draft class. We are right now rolling with one of the realistic draft classes, although we have not yet actually been asked to send out our scout. I assume it will happen in one of the next days, normally I think that triggers in one of the first weeks of November. Now, while I'm certainly no expert on next year's draft class, I went ahead and edited a few things anyway. What I did was I lowered the potential ratings of guys like Doncic, Bagley and a few others, just so they don't all turn into the second comings of Michael Jordan in the next 2 seasons. The potential rating is always something that 2K is very finicky with, and it's not completely uncommon for guys with high overall ratings to make jumps of 4 to 5 points in their overall in one season. Now, while I will certainly allow these guys to become the superstars they might eventually turn out to be, I don't really want that to happen at the ridiculously fast paces it would happen if the potential ratings stayed in the mid-90s. So I lowered those a bit to hopefully keep them on track to become superstars, but simply to make the whole process take maybe a year or 2 longer. I actually did a quick test run with this draft class just to see how things work out, and yeah, Luka Doncic turned into a top 3 player at the age of 22. And again, while I certainly think that he has the potential to eventually become a top 3 player, realistically I would have to assume that takes a few years longer than that. So I lowered a few guys' potential rating slightly, nothing major, just to keep sure things develop at a realistic pace. And I would say that's it for today. Next time we start things off with a game against the Denver Nuggets, and hopefully we're able to get that first win and also avoid any more injuries. As always, if you like this episode, then leave a thumbs up, feel free to leave your questions or suggestions in the comments below, and if you want to see the channel grow, then go ahead and subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.